An entire world is ready
for you to start your career teaching the path to wellness.
Mastering the science of mindfulness.
And the art of coaching.
To help clients achieve mental, emotional, and physical betterment of life.
Through movement,
nutrition,
recovery, and regeneration.
Because impacting one person impacts a family.
Impacting a family impacts a community.
And impacting a community impacts the world.
Become an NASM certified wellness coach.
You're listening to Random Fit with hosts Wendy Batts and Ken Miller, winner of a Gold Markham Award for Digital Media.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Random Fit. I am Wendy Batts here with my colleague and friend, Mr. Ken Miller. Ken, how are you today?
Couldn't be better, Wendy. How are you?
Just living a dream. It's a good day.
Yeah.
Well, so far anyway.
Yeah, day's young, but a chance to get better.
Every day. Yeah,
That's
every
right.
day is a chance to get better. But today I'm excited about our topic because this actually was from one of my clients that was asking me questions about her daughter watching things on her phone, on her tablet, and on her computer, on social media. She follows some of these fitness influencers, and they wanted my feedback on whether they thought that some of the exercise selections were good for her daughter to do on her own. And so Ken and I talked about this. And so today we're going to talk a little bit about social media awareness. And the big point I want to get across is just because you can do it doesn't mean you should do it. So I'm excited about today.
Yeah, and you know, it's funny how times change, Wendy. Now, I mean, well, good on your friend and the daughter who's actually looking at exercises, right? Of all the things you can look at on your phone or your tablet or your computer, the fact that she's looking at exercise, that's a great thing. That's a good thing. They're looking at how to get better, stronger, look and feel, the best that they can. But it is funny how things change, Wendy. Do you remember, and I am dating myself when I say this next comment, is that I remember when clients used to bring in a magazine.
Oh, yes.
And for those of you that are like, magazine is a printed piece of literature.
Everyone used to come out.
And then they boom and say, hey, what do you think about this? And what do you think about this? Can we do this? Look how huge that guy's shoulders are. I want those shoulders. And if he's doing those exercises to get those, I want to do those. And, what's funny, Wendy, is I say the same thing. Well, based on your goal, based on what we've been doing, we can definitely get you closer to that. And without contraindications and without any joint issues, yeah, that's an exercise that we can do. Right. But, when we talked about this topic on social, say that 10 times, social media awareness, it's the same situation where you have to be able to screen, the different exercises. Is it right for my, we'll go all into all of that today, but it's just funny. The phone is the new magazine, right? When it comes to sources of information on, okay, where do I get my exercise? What should I do? How should I do it?
Well, and I think it's important too, because, and can you get this? I mean, as a trainer, I do travel a lot as well. I travel for NASM. I get to do some amazing, go and present at some amazing places. And so I'm not always in the gym, and I do not want to hinder my clients, performance or success or goals because I'm gone. And so I use a specific app. It's, I use the NASM Edge app actually. So yes, it is a plug, but I love it. And I program different workouts that go directly to their phone. So when I'm not available, I have them take their phone in, they do that program. Everything's got a video. It shows them exactly what they need to do.
Right.
It gives their reps. It gives their, I have like written in there what I want them to use for weight. And they also, have a pretty good background, about what it is I'm looking for. So the 5 kinetic chain checkpoints, proper alignment, they know different things. Plus I can make notes. And so that's kind of what triggered it was, the mom was actually at the gym looking at her phone, which was phenomenal because again, I can check in to make sure she's doing it. So it is kind of like me, still watching her when I'm not there. just to ensure that she did it. But the daughter was also interested, and I was like, I'm happy to write her a program as well. But she was like, well, what do you think about some of these people? And it was one of those things when we all got together and we started talking about it. The daughter was in there, and the one thing that I said was, remember that a lot of individuals post their workouts or they post their successes because they finished a marathon or half marathon, or they did something that's very exciting that they want everybody, all of their friends or their followers to know that they completed and they did. They did it. And this is how they got to that point. But just because that's their avenue and their route doesn't mean that it's safe for, in this instant, the daughter to do, because she's not at that level. And so it was one of those that people are going to post their success, and they're going to post their favorite exercises, and they're going to post the way that they learned how to do it. But again, to your point, I know we're going to kind of go over, a few different things to consider when you're looking for these influencers and you're thinking about taking their exercises. Just what is it that they're doing, and is it something that you agree with? And and the first thing I said was, what are their credentials? And it was like, they're not even in the fitness industry. They are not in the fitness industry, and they're doing feet out plies. And I'm like, girl, no, this is not for you, because, and she's like, but it works their inner thigh. And this is the problem. And this is why we want to make you guys aware. Guys, if your feet are turned out and you're doing a plie, which just means, you're doing an exercise where you're kind of doing a squat, but your feet are turned out, your knees are going out, and you're going up and down. And, you've got a weight in your hand because you're lifting heavy. You're going to feel a stretch on your inner thighs. You are not working your inner thighs. Actually, you're actually shortening a muscle that's super overactive in your glutes and your hips. And it's the one muscle, your piriformis, that sits right next to your sciatic nerve. It can increase your, some issues there. It can lock down your sacrum. And the reason you feel it in your inner thighs is because you're putting them on stretch, and then you're going up and down. So you're doing a ballistic stretch on that particular area. And so it was one of those, is just making them aware. Just because someone said that they're doing it for this reason, biomechanically, it was not for that reason. And it was not targeting what they thought it was being, what they thought they were targeting. And so that's one of the whole purpose. And I'm sorry that I keep rambling, because Ken, I know you want to say something, but I think it's a very important point to talk about is, that's why it's important to understand who is it that you're watching before you take them on to be, this is the person I want to follow and I want to be them. Right.
Because, nothing tells more about your credentials than being shirtless and at 10% body fat.
Wait, you mean that's not a thing?
Yeah. That's, it helps you stop scrolling. Right. So, we're talking about social media awareness here on Random Fit, and we're talking at this point about credentials and who you're following, what you're following, and why you're following them. So let's just make sure it's for the right reason. So if they've got a good exercise that's maybe a little bit pleasing to the eye, that's one thing. But is it right for you? So all the things that you mentioned, Wendy, with the plie squat, it's a movement, it's a variation. Is it the best thing for what your clients typically want, which is stronger glutes, maybe maybe a little less tension through the adductor complex? No, right? But if you saw something that stopped you for a second, just think, who's it for, right? And what's the goal? And I think if you can answer those two questions, is it for this guy, and what goal is he trying to accomplish? And then does that relate to you, your current capability for work and movement and, strength and your fitness and workout history? If it's appropriate for you and your goal, and it makes biomechanical sense with what you were talking about, Wendy, then go for it. But for a lot of people, the person that is putting this out, unless they state who it's for and all those things that we just talked about, then you have to use that as a filter as far as, okay, is this something that I should add into my routine? And 9 times out of 10, it's going to be a no, right? If you're going on aesthetics, right? Or if you're going on 100,000 plus followers, those are the things that we need to be aware of when it comes to, okay, why do I follow this person? And are they worth it for me? Because here's the thing: there are a lot of great content creators out there, a lot of great ones, and I follow a lot of them, right? Not saying that I only follow great people, but I do follow a lot.
Well, I was like, wait a minute, do you follow bad people?
Right, but that's the filter. That's the filter I use, because hey, that's a great exercise, but their explanations are off, and and they've been training for a couple years, and they're 8%. Nothing wrong if you've got lean body mass that's just popping out of your shirt, but who's the audience you're trying to reach, and is it really going to help somebody when it comes to the quality of the content that you're putting out there. So if you use that as your filter, okay, who's this person, what have they done, and does it fit my filter for who to follow and what I'm going to do that day, then I'll follow them. If not, then I'll keep moving on.
Yeah. Well, and it is interesting because when you look at all the people that you're following, it's like, oh, wow. I'm like, I don't have a lot of fully t-shirt, pants, dress people. It's usually the sports bra, the short shorts, guys with no shirt, and I'm just like, thank goodness my husband's in the same fitness industry, because if not, this looks a little crazy. And same thing for him too. I'm like, you might as well just wear a bikini and say, this is what I'm doing every day. So if you're just joining Ken Miller and I today on Random Fit, we're talking about social media awareness. And again, just because it's out there on the internet doesn't necessarily mean that it's something that would be the right choices for you. So I think number one, we just talked about, you really want to look at someone's credentials and know, are they certified? Are they even in the fitness industry? Or are they just posting because they are very proud of their accomplishments, which is also okay. But is that what they're doing to get their followers? So again, look at their background, know a little bit about them. But I also think number two that I think is extremely important is, within our scope of practice as a, personal trainer. And then Ken and I, obviously we have our manual therapy license, so we can kind of go a little bit out of that scope of just training only with the license that we have. But you also want to make sure that someone is staying within their scope. And so, for example, with me, I do have my, my CNC, so a certified nutrition coach through NASM. And so I can talk about nutrition and I can talk about certain things, but I cannot write out this is what I want you to eat specifically. This is how many grams of creatine you need and this and that and whatever, and then put it out there, because I'm not a registered dietitian. Everybody's diet is different. If you're on certain medications, that's important. And so you have to be very careful of not to overstep what you are certified and able to provide for advice. So just be very cautious. I mean, it's okay to put a recipe out there. Hey, this is something that I eat, I love, I want to share it with you guys, and this is it. Take it or leave it. That's different. But if I'm saying you need, Ken, to have this, and this is what you need to do every single day, and this is all you have to eat, just be very cautious with that, because again, you don't want to get yourself in some kind of nutritional, and I use nutrition because to me, that's the biggest one that stands out.
Yeah. And when it comes to personal training, if, there's a lot that personal trainers do these days, from sports performance to corrective exercise. And just with those two examples, again, we're talking about, the bookends of what it takes to move better and feel better and perform better. But you have those trainers that do have a stronger emphasis on corrective exercise, and you have those that have a bias towards the more of the performance or sports performance realm of things. So speed, agility, and quickness. I might go to this person because they're working with these athletes, proven athletes that have gotten true results and been able to operate at the highest level. And then you have those that you follow that, they understand biomechanics, human movement science. And so the corrective exercise realm of things might be their stronger suit. So again, if you're a certified personal trainer and you've got multiple specializations, I'm going to look for, okay, what do your credentials say, but what have you practically applied? What have you done for yourself? What have you done for your clients? Testimonials are huge when it comes to why people will look at somebody on social media. So one of the things that you do want to keep in mind is, as they've passed the credential filter, right? The proof is in the pudding, is one way to say it. It's like, what have they done? And, in that realm. And again, this day and age of people that specialize in specializations, right? Specialists and specialists, people, you get a bunch of letters behind your name, but what does it mean if you haven't done anything with it? Right. So that's just one thing that I look at as far as, you talk about scope of practice, but area of influence and area of expertise and practical application is something to experience when you look at their bio or their description of who they are and what they've done in the industry.
Well, and this is another one that I was looking at too. And I think that's very important because, again, I know, Ken, me, when we do these podcasts, I'm like, hey, there's also this research that says, and again, I usually go to peer-reviewed articles, things that are found like in the libraries or journals that obviously are evidence-based when I'm kind of throwing out some of these statistics for you guys. And I think it's important too that on social media that we're careful when we're like, oh, research said this. And you're like, what? Like, where would they find this information? And here's a prime example is I, was going through and looking through some of the stuff about social media awareness. And there was something that was on Yahoo News, and they used 9 people to do this research, if you will. And this research was actually published. And I'm trying to think of where it was published, but and I'll think of it in a second. Oh yeah, it was the Journal of Frontiers in Autonomic Neuroscience, right? And so that was the actual journal that it was published in. Again, 9 people. And they wanted to see that if somebody just sat down and watched social media and people work out, would they have a benefit of their own body by just sitting there? And they did show, just so you know, there was a positive turnaround for this. There was some instances on increased heart rates, respiration, and skin blood flow that increased while they were watching somebody else work out. And so it's like, okay, instead of going to the gym and working out myself, I'm showing via research that if I sit here and watch you work out, Ken, I'm going to burn a lot of calories and I'm going to hit my goal. So just be wary with that, because again, there was some positive benefit, but is that something that's going to actually help someone get to their goals, especially if it's weight loss and something of that manner? Then no, because if not, I would just sit down and watch Rocky all day and just watch him. We've done our podcast about Rocky. We know how hard he works out, and but we're not going to get that benefit. So I think it's important to think, who's the research by? What was the subjects? How many were in that? Does it make sense? So just look for citations and make sure that when you're going to quote something, that it makes something, it makes sense. And you're also using common sense to say that's probably not right.
Yeah. And citations and references are definitely a plus. If you can anchor what you're saying on social media, your posts or what they are putting out there, even better, because if science supports it and they've shown a practical application, which, some of the good producers of content, will do. They'll read an article and say, okay, this is how I practically applied it, and this is how you can translate this into your own workout program. So there are those that actually use founded information when it comes to, okay, here's what I'm saying and here's why I'm saying it, versus like, hey, okay, what's the cooler looking thing I can do today? Well, let me hang upside down, do 20 sit-ups because it's going to get both abs, right? The upper and the lower abs, and putting out.
Wait, you mean that's not a thing? What? Hey, I saw on Instagram that it was. So
Right, exactly. And he looks great. Why not?
It's amazing. And if you're joining Ken Miller and I today on Random Fit, we're talking about social media awareness. So number one, just because it's there doesn't mean you should, unless you look through it a little bit deeper. So number one, we talked about really looking at the credentials. Make sure that they come from an accredited certifying body, especially if they're saying that they are a trainer and that this is the exercise that is going to be the best thing for you. Number two, I think we talked a little bit about, or we did talk a little bit about understanding, what they're training and making sure that what they're saying is within their scope of practice, because again, that's also very important on a safety standpoint. We then talked a little bit about citations. If someone's going to quote research, look to make sure that it's legit research that they're quoting, and that it's something of benefit that shows positive with a high percentage of subjects that went through the actual study. And then I think it's also important to note, Ken, that when people talk about doing exercises versus training, there's a difference. Because, we can, like, if you're looking for something to spice up your workout and you want to get some ideas, social media is a great place to go and say, oh my gosh, you know what, Ken put out this exercise. I never thought about doing it this way because he used a cable and I've only used, this piece of machinery or something like that, maybe to get some different ideas. I think that's actually a really good thing, but I'm getting exercises. When you're on social media and someone's talking about training, they're actually talking about training, which is like more of a program. And it's important, I think, to realize that individuality, having something that's based on someone's assessments, their specific goals and their body type, that's important. So yes, you can actually do a workout, and a workout is a workout, but take it for that as a workout. It's not something that's going to be individually designed for you and your specific goals, even though there's a lot of claims out there that if you do my whatever program, you're going to guarantee to lose this amount of weight. It's hard to guarantee that when you don't know their nutrition, you don't know if those exercises are something that you should be doing because of your abilities. And then you also don't have someone, really kind of guiding you through form and technique if it's just an actual training program.
Yep. And it is about context. I know that there's, one account that I do follow, and the great thing that she does, and she's a physical therapist, is that she just doesn't show one exercise. She shows, a variation, couple variations of a movement pattern, but she'll also show, okay, this is what you can do to lead up to this exercise, and it can complement this goal with this series of movements, right? So there's context, and context is huge because, as you're saying, Wendy, when it comes to exercise and movement, that might be something that's good, but maybe not for us for right now. And that's one of the things that I might say to my clients is the fact that, hey, that's a great movement, but it's not right for us today. We need to work our way up to it, depending on the exercise. Or, hey, we can incorporate that into our warm-up, right? So, context is going to be king when it comes to, okay, we take a certain blip and then, okay, how do we put this into our routine?
Yeah. And I think that kind of goes along with another one too, that when we were kind of looking at just some of the different things about social media awareness, which is what Ken Miller and myself, Wendy Batts, are talking about today on Random Fit. I think it's important to also think too, about if, somebody says a claim, if it's too good to be true, it probably is. Like, hey, in 30 days, if you do this butt blaster, you're going to look like Kim Kardashian with this huge bubble butt, because that's what this goal is for this particular exercise. First of all, 30 days doing one exercise is probably not going to get you to look like someone else. It may work a specific muscle in a different way, but again, your body's going to adapt every 4 to 6 weeks. And you do different types of training for specifically, let's say, the glutes or the back end. That's one thing, but not, just be wary of some of these claims, especially if it seems exaggerated, like guaranteed. And I can show you that, I'm better than everyone else. Just kind of be, again, there's not that magic pill. If there was a magic pill, we would all take it. And I think that's very important to also, keep in the back of your mind.
Right. And yeah, not one thing. You got to, it's a part of a system, right? Progressive system, right? Not one thing is going to get you there. If that was the case, then somebody may have figured it out by now and making $1 trillion off of it. Yes. But that just goes along with, the point of, you have to have a strong filter. You have to be skeptic when it comes to a lot of these exercises, because again, in the day of, where it is right now, it is about the clicks. It is about the likes. It is about the forwards and the retweets and getting things out there and propagating that information, because that's where they make money, right? That's where a lot of these people make money. Again, that's not their primary objective. That's not their end goal, but for some people it is. So you have to realize that some people are doing things for the shock factor. Some people are doing things so that they definitely get your attention. Like, it's like, what is it going to take for you to stop scrolling? And either it's the background, the I guess the extremeness of, if that's a word, of the exercise, and maybe it's they're trying to just find some way to get you to stop and get your attention. So it may not be the best thing, but that's where you have to have a healthy level of skepticism when it comes to, okay, is this something worth doing or trying or even thinking about for another second?
And we have to be careful too. I think it's important when we're talking about, you're looking at this picture and you're like, oh my goodness, how do, the before and afters. Guys, unfortunately, there's this thing called filtering, that people can take a picture. I mean, I've seen myself and someone's done all these amazing filters, and I look like I'm like 20 all over again. I'm like, dude, I look amazing. They're like, yeah, it's great what filters can do. I'm like, man, I look so bad compared to what you just did to me. But this doesn't look like me. So thank you, but no thank you, because again, you get what you get with me. So just realize too that, are they using filters when they're trying to show some of these pictures? And, is it something that was kind of drawn on, like when you've got certain people's abs looking a certain way, maybe they do, maybe they don't, I mean, just also keep that in mind. But I think another really big one, and I know we could probably talk about this all day, but another big one that we want to say too, is if you're watching someone's video, so if it's not just pictures, but video, look at their form and technique. Do they talk about, where your feet positioning could be? Do they talk about drawing in? Do they talk about keeping and maintaining proper alignment of the torso? And are they executing the exercise correctly with proper form? Because again, anyone can squat. It's just, are you squatting utilizing the prime movers that should be utilized, which is your quads and glutes? Or are there some things happening where compensations exist where instead of using those prime movers, you're using more lower back, or you're using more piriformis, or you're using things that really shouldn't be, performing that particular exercise. So just think about what they're saying, think about how they're demonstrating it, or if they're working with a client, how they're showing that client how to do it. And if you feel like it's something you should incorporate and you want to incorporate, just make sure that it makes sense and that you know how to do it correctly.
Yep. And, because you and I, Wendy, we're still active in training when we do work with people, when I work with anybody, they just, I know I drone in their ears, shoulders, hips, knees, and ankles. Hip, knee, second and third toe alignment, hips level, shoulders level, and again, engagement of the midsection. So that is ringing in their ears. Just fundamental movement patterns as far as staying safe and executing exercises properly. But when they're looking for exercises, or they're just being entertained by exercises or other, social media posts and things like that, they walk away from my sessions at least with an idea of, okay, well, I'm trying to produce a judicious consumer of information in when it comes to exercise. So when they look at an exercise, are they slouching? Is their head forward? Are their knees buckling in? Are their feet turning out? So if you're seeing just an array of these compensations, then think for yourself, is this a good post? Is this appropriate exercise? Or can it be something that with some minor corrections can it be a good exercise? Right? So when we talk about form and technique, if they're not discussing it, if they're not addressing it, or if there's just some minor things, because we don't all come from the same background when it comes to what we look for in exercise training. But if some things could be just modified and tweaked and kind of right-sized for the client, then it could be a good thing. You just have to be able to filter things through for those that don't outright talk about form and technique as we might interpret what good form and technique might be. Yep.
And if you're joining myself, Wendy Batts, and Ken Miller today on Random Fit, we're talking about social media awareness. And I think the big thing, guys, is know the credentials, of the person that you're following, and make sure that if you want to partake in whatever they're doing, that it makes sense. To make sure it's within their scope of practice, that, what they're saying, again, is something that they're, they should be providing with the content that's out there on the web. Look for, if they're saying research, look for citations. I think it's important to make sure that when you're listening to what they're saying, that you understand there's a difference between training and then there's a difference between exercises. Watch those, exaggerated claims, because if it's too good to be true, it probably is. be a skeptic, think about, was something filtered? Really think about, form and technique. And another one I think that's really, really, really important is that you personally need to know your own body. Because again, there's exercises that are out there that may not be safe for you. And I'm always going to be the person that says, what's the risk versus benefit? What is it that you're trying to achieve? And there was something that I saw, which I thought we were kind of over this, but somebody was standing on one of the big physio balls doing bicep curls. And I'm like, you know what, unless you're going to be in Circus Olay or you're in the circus itself, which is something that you need to be balancing on. If I had a client that really doesn't even know how to barely stand on the ground, we're working on balance, putting them on a big old ball with nothing to hold on to. What is that training? What is the purpose? It's not safe, but they're working every muscle in their body. Well, yeah. And maybe it's okay for that person to do. And maybe there's something that's going to, that's important for them to be standing on that surface. But for the majority of the world, nobody needs to stand on a big old ball that's blown up, completely blown up, trying to keep their balance by doing something with dumbbells in their hands. So if they fall, they have nothing, like they have to, bail out of the weight and then catch themselves. Yeah. And so I'm always just saying, be cautious, make sure it's safe. And then also just make sure that, that when they're talking about muscles, that they're actually talking about the right muscles that you're working.
So I think you and I are looking at the same post, Wendy, because there's this person out there that is selling a training system, and as he's talking to the camera, he's standing or sitting on a ball, right? Like squatting, a low squat on a ball. And I think the claim was, a true level of measuring athleticism is your ability to access balance, and you're going to measure that by standing on a ball. I'm like, oh my, I thought we were done with that.
Me
15
too.
years ago. When you talk about, when you fall off of a ball, again, just as a quick aside, and that ball goes, you go straight down. And I don't know how many people I've seen in casted wrists or casted through the forearm and elbow because of that ball goes bye-bye, you go straight down. And the natural thing to do is to try and brace the landing. But when you fall that
and if you go backwards, I've seen someone go backwards and actually hit their head, cause them to actually have a gash on their head. They had a concussion. They almost broke their neck. I mean, guys, the thing is, you just have to be careful. And that's
an extreme example, though. That's an extreme example.
Well, but it happens because people are on a ball and they think, because that one person was on a ball and they told me to try it, why wouldn't I try it? And it's like, okay, well, I started on my knees and then I moved up and now I'm on my feet.
I progressed
okay, but we're training for everyday activities. What is it what surface do you stand on that this elevated ball surface is going to relate to the same thing? And it's not. There's just a lot of safer things to learn to balance on, because yes, you want it unstable, but you also want to make sure it's safe. And I think the last one, Ken, that I really wanted just to mention, because again, we could probably talk about this all day, would be just know the person behind the camera. Like, are they authentic? Are they someone that is really true to the industry and they have a passion about it and they really want to share their knowledge to the world? Because I know at the end of the day, I'm really not about the whole social media thing. I don't build my business in social media. But you know what? I love this industry. I love working for NASM. I love the model, and I love everything about working with my clients and seeing them hit goals. So I am true to my word, and I'm true to what I believe in on the training process. And I think it's important to know that if you are going to follow somebody that's giving advice, showing exercises, that they're passionate, they're educated, and that it's something that you think is only going to help you grow your own fitness journey, however that may be. And if you can check all those boxes, then you're probably following the right people.
Right. And, and those are things like, when it comes to looking at their gallery, right? Looking at what they've posted in the past, and you look for trends in the quality of information. Are they consistent, or is it something that, and you can figure that out for yourself as far as, okay, who's in it to make money and who's in it to help people. right? And that's up for you as the viewer to judge when it comes to, deciding, okay, who am I going to follow? What am I going to do? What am I going to think about putting into my program? And again, use your filters that we've talked about, credentials, experience, specialization, form, technique, all of that good stuff. And I think, if you keep those points in mind, then you'll be, like what I like to call is a judicious consumer of information. And if you can do that, well, you're going to do yourself. And actually, you're going to filter. It's like, is this something? How would Ken answer this? And I'm going to ask you, well, what do you think? What's this person's background? It's like, you answer your own questions, right? I'm not trying to stave off like bad questions, but hey, if you have a question, you have a question.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I loved this one because, again, I think it came at a perfect time. I appreciate my clients trusting me to come and say, hey, who are good people to follow and why? Again, everyone, all to their own. It's just, what are you trying to achieve? Is it just for fun? Follow everyone. If it's something for a specific person or purpose, just be, think about the points that we talked about and, know your why. And I think if you do that and you choose things that are safe and you feel comfortable and you really love the person, go for it.
Yeah.
But if you just want to follow to follow, for amusement, I do that a lot too, for fun.
Know your why. Yeah. Why? Because we love you. All right. Wendy, as always. Yeah, that's right. Wendy, as always, I've had fun and learned a lot, as I do with every one of our conversations here on Random Fit. So thank you again for spending your whatever time of day it is in your neck of the world.
My afternoon. We'll just say
the
that.
afternoon, right? So for those of you who have the time still with us right now here on Random Fit, listening to Social Media Awareness, thank you again for giving us this time to educate you on what our perspective is when it comes to watching social media for exercise ideas. So if you like what you heard today, like, follow, subscribe, comment, download, share, and let us know what we can do to better entertain you when it comes to Random Fit. So until next time, everybody, take care and be well.